Relatively new position for the city. Since I've been here, the EOC from a technological standpoint has been pretty much dead. Nothing functions. We have this lovely wall, and the lovely wall does nothing. Which is really a detriment to emergency management operations, right? This room functions as the emergency operations center, but also as a command post for some of the downtown events like parades and the taco tour and the marathon and all that kind of stuff. And if we can't share intel, we have all these lovely CAD systems and all that kind of stuff. If we can't share it effectively during these, it kind of hampers our operation a little bit. So this funding, which I'm very happy that you were able to help us secure, will help us get that back up and running. And it's a good start for the city to start moving in a more proactive direction when it comes to emergency management.
So talk about what that will do to the space physically and in terms of technology.
Yeah, so in terms of technology, that's the big one for us. So the bulk of the funding will get used to replace this display wall and one in the EOC proper. They'll be set up with the same system that's currently in the classroom. And it gives us the ability to display information. So just like you would kind of like in a normal classroom setting, like a university or something, we have the ability to display like one large screen or break that up into multiple views depending on what we want to look at. Weather, our CAD system so we can see where our apparatus, where the police officers are. We can overlay intel systems with like the city's infrastructure or property information, that kind of thing. So again, live time, real data that helps us make informed decisions when we are dealing with an emergency or disaster. And after that, then we'll kind of look at infrastructure, whether we replace, there's again, a movable wall in there that's, I don't know, probably been here since the building was constructed. Darkening of these windows, because at night you can see right through them, which from an intel standpoint is not great for us. And then just replacement of some stuff that is kind of past its prime. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Why was this not working before?
So it's just age of the system. We can't find the parts to replace it, and even if we could, it's so old that it's not compatible with modern technology systems.
So it was working when it first started? And
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely.
How long ago was that?
Probably about two and a half years, shortly after I started.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll need a new system in 2 years, or is it just?
No, we're investing in technology that will last us for a much longer term. And again, this was here for many, many years.
Okay.
It's well past, as you well are aware.
So it's long. It's been here
Yeah.
longer than 2 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So the systems that were here have been here for a number of years, and they're just technologically they've been phased out. They're also very dead right now, but they're phased out on the whole. So they're due for an upgrade, and then they really truly died, and now we have to replace them.
Is it a challenge to accommodate, physically you're pulling together different city departments for a response, but they also have their own platforms and their own systems.
Yes.
Does that
So
present a challenge technologically?
it really doesn't. So the city as a whole uses one network. There are partitions of that network for security purposes, for like law enforcement. The school district has a separate partition, and the airport has a separate partition as well. But it's all the same base network, so we work very closely with city information systems to make sure that the EOC proper, which is that room over there, is wired to accommodate all those parties. We also have just generalized network capability, so if we were to call in our private or nonprofit partners to the table, or state agencies, they can tap into just normal network. In fact, we do have one connection for the state that's over there, so when they're in, they don't have to go through any firewalls. They're on their state network when they're here.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are
Nice to
you?
see you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah. Sorry to break up
That's okay.
the meeting. I guess you guys will be here for a while.
A little bit, yes.
And then other than that, we're looking at modular solutions, right? So the needs of the emergency operation change depending on what challenge we're facing. If it's a winter storm, if it's a building collapse, if we're supporting a special event, different parties have to come to the table. So we're looking at modular solutions so we can change the layout of the room as needed to accommodate those partners.
That's great.
Yeah.
So most common usage might be those
It's our-
sort of events that
Yeah,
the
so
city
special
hosts.
events is the
Yeah.
most common usage of the space. So for all of our major events, I'd say anything over 10,000 people is an automatic stand-up of these rooms. And the most common partners are DPW, Parks and Rec, the police department, the fire department, the health department. The mayor's office is obviously here to help us out with the press release, the public information side of the house. And then various parties depending on what the event itself is and who the property owner is. Economic development has been a huge partner in helping us make those private-public connections.
Does the state emergency management provide any support or guidance for local EOCs?
Yeah, so the state is a huge partner for us. They make available a field rep. Each community is assigned a field rep from the state that comes down whenever we so need them if we activate. They also provide us a representative from the State Information Analysis Center, the State Fusion Center, and various state agency partners as needed, again, depending on the event itself that we activate for. In terms of guidance, there's no set standard for emergency operations centers. It is what the community needs it to be. There are different models of how you can structure the personnel and organization, but physical layout, not so much.
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Should we go to the next room?
Yeah, we'll give you guys a tour of the actual EOC and happy to answer any questions about what we're gonna do and not do and all that.
Thank you.
We recently had a bunch of electronic work done ahead of this funding coming in so that we can, this room used to be full of like poles with conduits in them, which made it really difficult to set up and make functional use of the space. So those were all moved to the walls to kind of do some prep work for this funding coming in. We have the lovely whiteboards that'll be converted into a display wall similar to what you saw in the conference room. Yeah, it's a room, so we get to rearrange as needed to accommodate the city's needs.
That's great. So you're not taking any walls?
We're not taking any walls down, the space stays as it is, yep. The only thing we may do is replace this retractable wall. It's age, it's sometimes requires some heavy duty tools. Yeah, it does, and to be honest, because of the way it collapses, it does kind of impede some operations, so we're looking at a couple functions that might be able to effectively replace that.
How long, once the
Yeah.
funding comes in and the project gets going, how long will the project be done?
I would like to say we'd have it done in a year, but given supply chain, given, just everybody wants to go do things now, it really depends on the contractor schedule. So we'll be starting some meetings once we have the final paperwork signed with the various city partners to figure out what order things need to happen in and to take account of who needs what up here, right? Because we talked about network connections, but there are some additional things that need to be brought here to make it fully functional. So I want to make sure we have those key partners at the table to make those decisions.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, you guys might have some questions.
Today, the Manchester Fire Department is super excited to announce that we have received congressional spending to upgrade our EOC. The EOC currently, technologically, is completely inoperable, as well as parts of the building are over 40 years old, as the building is getting old as well. We are grateful for all the work that Congressman Pappas has done, all the work that the Mayor Craig has done, and at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Craig, and I just want to thank you guys all again for coming.
Thank you, Chief. So again, thank you for being here, and I want to thank Congressman Pappas for joining us here at the Manchester Fire Department and for your unwavering support for our first responders. The funding that Congressman Pappas, along with the rest of our federal delegation, secured for our Emergency Operations Center is critical for us to continue our important work in keeping our community safe. The $338,000 secured to enhance our Emergency Operations Center will allow us to upgrade both the physical space and technological infrastructure to adapt to emergency situations, including new monitors, hardware, and display technology. The EOC serves as a consolidation point for our first responders and departments to facilitate decision-making during emergency situations, and can be activated for many different reasons, for natural disasters to the COVID-19 pandemic. On Friday, as you know, the City of Manchester activated our EOC to address the state of New Hampshire's ongoing homelessness crisis. Homelessness is a culmination of many intersecting issues like mental health, substance use disorder, and housing, which make the Emergency Operations Center's model for the best place to organize a multi-agency response. Because of funding secured by our federal delegation, the City of Manchester has been able to dedicate over $11 million to support 1,375 units of rapid rehousing, supportive housing, and transitional housing for Manchester residents over the last 2 years. We are so thankful for the work of Congressman Pappas and everything he does to bring resources to the City of Manchester and to our residents. And now I'd like to turn things over to Congressman Pappas. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks very much, Mayor Craig, and thank you, Chief Cashin, and to everyone here who is part of this activation today. Thank you for your work to respond to a crisis in our state and to make sure that the City of Manchester is coming together to help solve this problem in a way that is compassionate, in a way that promotes public safety and public health. So this funding that we were able to secure in the end-of-year omnibus appropriations bill is really critical for the City of Manchester. We got a proposal from Megan for this project. It was one that rose quickly to the top. A city the size of Manchester needs to have a modern facility with up-to-date technology to be able to respond to events locally, whether it's a natural disaster or whether it's just bringing people together when there's a big event happening in town. Obviously, this particular facility that we stand in today is a little bit outmoded. It has lived past what it was designed to do. And to make sure that we have the technology here to support the city's nerve center when it comes to critical issues that present themselves, whether it's something that is a natural disaster or something pertaining to public safety. We've got to make sure that officials in Manchester are able to stay on top of these events. So that's why this funding is going to be a big boost to the city's efforts, making sure that we have a modern emergency operations center right here in the Queen City. That's important for today as well as for so many things that will come up that are unforeseen in the future. We've got to make sure that the police department, the fire department, public health, all the city services, all the nonprofit agencies that work in our community can come together from time to time to respond to issues that present themselves in Manchester. And I have no doubt with this funding, this will take emergency operations in the city to the next level. So thank you for everyone on the great proposal. We'll continue to fight for resources to bring them back here to the local level. When it comes to responding to emergencies in Manchester, this just shouldn't be an issue that falls on the backs of the local taxpayers. We've got to make sure the federal government and the state as well is supporting your efforts to make sure that this city is as safe and as strong as it needs to be for the future. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Megan, would you like to say something, or?
You can answer all the tough
Yeah.
questions.
Can you just talk briefly about
Yeah.
what this money will actually do here, both for the
Yes.
physical building and the technology that you were discussing?
Yeah, so the Emergency Operations Center, like the chief mentioned, from a technological standpoint is unfortunately inoperable. And that's due to a number of factors, but the chief one being age of the systems that are here. So the bulk of the funding coming in will be spent on upgrading the systems here in this location to better service the needs of all the city departments and partners that would be called in to work in the city's Emergency Operations Center at any given point. There are some network needs, there are the display wall needs, and then once we get beyond that, any remaining funds will be used to just improve the general operations of the room. The retractable wall here is well past its prime and needs some sprucing up, whether that be service or replacement. We've looked at sound deadening for the room because, as you're aware, we're in a working fire station and it can be quite loud in here if we have active events going on. And because of the age of the building, we have some privacy and security concerns with the windows here. So nothing super fancy on the whole outside of like upgrading the technology, which of course everybody likes to see, a nice fancy display wall. But really it's just kind of ensuring that the baseline operations of this room really meet the needs of the city. Yes?
If the current upgrades were in place now, how would that make things different than what you're doing right now for the homeless association?
Right. Well, just on the whole, right? Right now we're using a lot of paper forms and face-to-face communications. A lot of what we're doing could be improved, streamlined through use of technology, whether that is display of various maps, GIS systems, our CAD systems, weather displays, that kind of thing, or the ability to utilize our online platforms like WebEOC, which is the state's emergency management platform, to share information back and forth with our partners. It streamlines the operations. Right now, we're just a little bit slower, a little bit archaic in our practices through nobody's fault, right? And we would just see generalized improved operations. It may also help us not have as many people in the room on the whole for an entirety of an event, right? Like we could call somebody in, say, okay, here's what we want to do, here's the platform you're going to go use, and we'll see you next morning for a briefing, right? Instead of tying up their whole day.
And Mayor, the EOC is open today because of the homeless issue, as you said. Can we just get an update on where things are after this weekend?
Sure.
So we did open the EOC. As you can see, we have a number of different departments here working daily on this issue. So we opened up the Cashin Senior Center as a temporary emergency shelter. We had a number of individuals who have been living outside go to the senior center. We're pleased that that happened. They were very grateful to have a warm bed and shelter. So we are continuing that on a short-term basis. The team here is working on putting a longer-term winter shelter, emergency shelter in place for the city of Manchester. We hope to have an announcement shortly on that. And then also, obviously, looking at long-term, what we need to do. We've talked about medical respite needed throughout the state. We've talked about the need for supportive housing throughout the state. But I've not heard back from the state, so in absence of that, we are going to be doing what we need to do in Manchester to take care of the individuals that are here.
I know part of that is the eviction notice that they're putting up right now while we're here. So I guess what happens to those folks, if they choose not to leave?
So one thing, it's not an eviction notice. That's not the correct terminology, and I think that's important to talk through. There have been a number of outreach teams who have been working with the individuals living outside along the sidewalks as well as outside in other areas. Those efforts will continue. This morning, for example, we had 2 staff members from 211 here hoping to connect individuals to housing throughout the state if there's anything available. We have Manchester Mental Health Crisis Response Team who is at the Cashin Senior Center and again will be working with us. We have the police department, the fire department, healthcare for the homeless, many other agencies working with individuals who are outside trying to connect them with the services or the housing that they need. So one of the things that we learned from individuals who went to the Cashin Center was that they don't necessarily want to stay in Manchester, right? So if we can connect them to the services to their home community, that's what we want to do. That's also one of the things that we've been doing when we were doing outreach to individuals. Where are you from? Where, is there another place that you can go? If you have a safe place to be, family members, friends, another shelter. So we're doing everything we can to meet the needs of the individuals outside, their health and their safety, as well as the health and safety of our community at large.
I know previously the chief and the city has said, they couldn't actually move these people off the sidewalks here in Manchester. What's changed there? I know you said there's a health and safety issue going on here too. Is that?
That's exactly it, right? Yeah, so we are concerned with the health and safety of the individuals who are living outside, as well as the community at large. It's getting very cold, and we need to get individuals inside, in shelter, and get them the services and the help that they need.
As far as the citations, is that the police? Will they be enforcing that, or how will that be enforced?
That is police enforcement, yes.
Gotcha. All right, thank you. Appreciate the update.
And I think it's important to note we're hearing from a number of individuals outside how pleased they are with the relationships that they've built with the police department and with our fire department. They are handling the situation with compassion. They've built relationships with individuals who are living outside, and they're doing everything they can to help them. So, for example, Emmett Mackin of the Manchester Police Department has been over the weekend, literally making sure individuals outside know about the Cashin Center and connecting them to the services. And so I think that's really important to mention, right, that our staff, especially fire and police, are building relationships with individuals and building trust. And that's the first step that has to happen in order for someone to take advantage of either shelter or services available. So I'm very proud and pleased with their efforts.
Thank you,
Yep.
appreciate that. Chief, would you like to add anything, updates from the past weekend?
I think the mayor covered all of it. I think we're good for now.
Okay, sounds good, thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.